Hello, fellow flamenco enthusiasts, and welcome to episode 30 of Everything Flamenco. I'm your host, La Hugo, and it's December, you guys. So, although a lot of schools might be closing soon, let's talk about keeping motivated when you are a dancer. So, as the holiday season is approaching now in South Africa, and a lot of schools are closing soon, everybody's getting into the holiday spirit. You can see more people outside, going to restaurants, taking the kids out to parks and beaches and things like that. And it's probably very normal then to get a bit demotivated for your day-to-day activities. I think with dancing especially, a lot of us at our school, it's people that have full-time jobs, or they're full-time parents. um, it's quite difficult. Life is tough and busy. So even on a normal day, it's difficult to sometimes get motivated to go to class. But how do you stick to that when it is the holiday season as well? So yeah, today I just wanted to talk about that. So uh, what do you think? Is it normal to get demotivated? I mean, I think sometimes, I always feel like, why am I not feeling it? Why am I not feeling like going to flamenco class? Because flamenco is so fun and so cool. All the episodes I've brought out, it's like I'm always happy and so, excited about dancing. And, why am I sometimes feeling this way? Uh, why am I not always motivated? I think that's absolutely normal. I mean, you can't be hyped up and excited about everything all the time. Just if you think, for example, about a movie. So a movie isn't just action scenes, right? So it's not just from the start, just action, 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 or just highlights, highlights, highlights. It's got a start, a middle, an end. It's got a build up. Sometimes it's got slower parts. Sometimes you wonder what on earth is going to happen now. And I guess that's probably the same with motivation in anything, but also in dancing. So sometimes, you just don't feel like it. And sometimes you're super excited, so excited that you might even maybe irritate your fellow classmates a little bit, because that has happened to me as well. I think the most important thing is that it, all in the end comes together in one picture. And when you get demotivated, it's just important to remember that you are human. There's so many things that can cause frustration and demotivation, perhaps, that will make you not go to class. So, we have work, there's home, there's family. Um, it can even be hormones that's fluctuating, or going through health changes, or if you had a really, really bad day and you maybe had difficult customers yelling at you and you're just mentally exhausted, you feel low, your motivation is low, your emotions are are low maybe, and you don't have any energy. And then you need to face all these life things during the day, and it's maybe getting up early, and then you have to go into a dance class where you have to perform steps and move your body in a certain way, and maybe remember choreography and be corrected, and it can sometimes cause a mental block. And I think dance class is different. It's not like, oh, maybe fitness people will argue with me on this, but I don't think it's like an aerobics class where you might have different things every day, and it might be a bit easier to follow, or maybe going to gym. Um, with dancing, it can be more complex and more technical than going to an aerobics class, for example. And even if you enjoy dancing, it can sometimes feel overwhelming. And when you are feeling that way, it's so easy to make excuses. And once you go down that road, it is so difficult to go back. So, it's like make an excuse once and then make an excuse again. And before you know it, you haven't been to class in weeks. And then you blame yourself for not going. And then you start a negative self talk, which is a really dangerous road to go down. So now you're asking me, okay, yeah, you're explaining all these things that I maybe resonate with and that I'm feeling, but how on earth do I get out of it if I am feeling so stupid because I've missed class for weeks and it's maybe not because of any specific reason. It was just so easy to find an excuse not to go. How on earth do I get out of it? I think, it's important to just be realistic, but most of all, to be consistent when it comes to dancing. So, life happens, but sometimes you shouldn't think about things too much and just go ahead and do it. So, go to class, even if you don't feel like it in the moment. I find that, I hate exercising, for example, though dancing is also exercise, but I mean, I used to belong to a gym many, many years ago, and I hated going to gym. And for me, it was just, even if I don't feel like it in the moment, it's just getting up and going. So, for example, with flamenco classes, if your teacher creates a positive environment, you know that you will be glad that you went once you started. It's just a matter of getting there and also setting reachable goals for yourself. If you skip a class here and there, it's not the end of the world, but also if you're there, don't push yourself so hard that you end up hating dancing. And, I've seen that happen to dancers as well, and it's happened to myself as well, where I've actually hurt myself because I'm pushing myself so hard that I end up not enjoying it anymore. And especially with flamenco, it's really about the journey. I've spoken about this many times before in previous episodes. It's really about the journey of learning. It's not about the destination. And it's about things that you learn along the way and how you grow as a dancer along the way. And again, you will not necessarily know everything ever, but that is okay. Just think about how much you've learned up to this point already. And also, on the other end of the spectrum, also don't put the bar so low that you get bored. Just keep on telling yourself, oh, I can't do this. I'm not going to push myself. And then you end up getting bored because it feels like you're just doing the same thing over and over. For repetition is important, and we can talk about that again at another stage. But I'm talking about almost regressing and putting the bar so low that you really can't grow. You need to push yourself. That is how you grow. And you need to find that balance. And that's also where it's important, like, especially if you lack motivation and, find things a bit challenging, to speak to your teacher. I'm sure, most teachers will be very open for discussions and trying to help you to solve the problem, if you're frustrated, because also, a teacher can only sense so much and see so much in a class. If a student, if they're not displaying how they are feeling when they're not talking about it, the teacher might not necessarily know, and they might not be able to help you with it. So it's important to also talk to your teacher. And then another thing is, to keep motivated, just focus on your personal journey and put your energy into that. Just think about it when you thought about starting flamenco. Why? Why did you start? What did you want to accomplish? What made you excited about thinking about starting flamenco? Um, and it's always, good to also see what others are doing, but we are all different. I mean, it would just be so boring if everybody was the same. So, with differences in people, you will also think that, you know, the way that you learn and the way that you improve is also different. So, the speed that you learn at, or the technique, and one person might be fantastic in footwork and one person might have the most beautiful hand movements, and another person will be able to do fantastic turns, and then there'll be one that can maybe not do any of those, but they just give so much emotion while they're dancing that everybody's envious of them. So everybody's different, and that is also the beauty of flamenco. Is it doesn't matter, who you are, where you come from, you can dance flamenco because it celebrates the differences in people. And I've said this to my students so many times. It's like celebrate who you are. Really show who you are. If you focus on other people too much, you are going to get demotivated. Just focusing on yourself and not on others sounds so easy, but it really, I think, is one of the most difficult things to do, because don't we all just like to compare ourselves to others in everything, even though you might not notice it? I mean, for myself, it's like, oh, I wish I wasn't getting as grey. That girl is my woman is my age and she's not as grey as I am. Or, she's much fitter, or she's built much better than I am. Where another person told me the other day, I love your grey hair. I wish I had grey hair. And it's a person that doesn't have grey hair. Or, thinking about, that person has got a bigger place to live than me, or they live in a better area than me. I wish I had that, or this car, or so many children, or no children, or 50 dogs, or no, just cats, or, there's so many things that we compare ourselves with other people, with their lives. And it's the same with dancing, because if you're going to keep on trying to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak, and I think maybe for flamenco, it will be trying to keep up with the gitanos or the gitanas. You are going to get extremely frustrated and also demotivated. And it's always good to look at other students. I've also always said that, because there's things that you can learn from each other. There's a difference between learning from each other and envying each other. And once you can shift your mind from comparing yourself to others to looking at your own journey and your own internal satisfaction and growth and enjoyment, you'll be amazed at how you will naturally improve. Because where you are now, think about where you were 1, 2, 3 months ago, a year ago. What did you wish for at that moment when you started, like a year ago, or not even when you started, just a year ago from now, um, in the past now, I mean. So, what did you want to accomplish, and how much of that did you accomplish in the time that you started? What did you wish that you could do then, and now it's easy for you? Um, think about, maybe not being able to even lift your heel properly, or do bulerias, palmas clapping properly, or even just try and do contra clapping, for example, is just above and beyond. But now, 3 months later, 6 months later, it's easy for you. So that internal looking glass, I would call it. Psychologists call it intrinsic motivation. So, where you engage in a behavior like dancing, flamenco dancing, any kind of dancing, any kind of performance, because of how it makes you feel. So, how does it make you feel when you dance flamenco? How does it make you feel when you get a step right? How does it make you feel when that music in class starts playing and the teacher tells you, okay, let's go walk with confidence? And you can actually do it. And you can even add your arms to it. How does it make you feel? It's not because necessarily you want a specific outcome. So, intrinsic motivation, um, it's it's about that internal looking glass, like I said, because many students, also some of my students I know, they don't want to become professionals or semi-professionals or even perform on stage. And if your goals and intentions are different, why do you want to learn or improve or perform in the same way as another person who's got different ideals and different goals to you? I'm just thinking about my job, for example. I'm not going to go into detail about what it is, but my job specifically, I don't often get praise outside of our team. I mean, we motivate each other within the team, but it's not a position where I often get compliments or awards from the rest of the business. I'm often seen as a necessary evil and, sometimes an obstacle in the road or even a nuisance. So, why do I keep doing it? Because I learn every day. I know I'm good at my job, hopefully, most of the time, and I'm proud of doing the right thing. So, that keeps me going in my job. And it's the same with dancing. So, I mean, what are you saying to yourself when you dance? Do you keep waiting for others to praise you, your teachers, your fellow students? Or when you perform, do you wait for compliments from the audience? And if you really think about it, is it satisfying over the long term or is it short lived? Do you keep on going for that fix from other people? Do you keep seeking and seeking it over and over and still feel that you're lacking? That's called extrinsic motivation, which involves wanting external rewards. So that is something that's short lived, and you will also, if your expectations of others become so high to motivate you and to compliment you, you are going to become disappointed in them all the time because it's going to get to a point where they will never say things in a way that will satisfy you and make you feel better about your dancing and your performance. So the importance is on focusing on intrinsic motivation. So intrinsic motivation has three main elements. It's called autonomy, purpose, and mastery. So you will be so motivated if you can act independently. If you focus on yourself, be proud of your efforts and know that they matter and gain satisfaction from every improvement that you make, no matter how small, and that you give yourself credit for that. And it's not always going to be easy. It's sometimes going to be very, very difficult. But you just need to keep going. So, according to Malone and Lepper, who wrote the book Making Learning Fun, they identified these factors for intrinsic motivation, which might hopefully help you. So, number one is challenge. So, when you pursue your goals, it has to have a personal meaning for you. So, what do you want to get out of it? And how do you want to feel when you attain it? So attaining the goal is possible, but not certain. So it needs to challenge you. And it's very difficult for teachers to balance this with students. And that's what I also think is one of the elements that makes a good teacher. Is if a teacher can see what every student needs and adapt a class to their needs, it doesn't matter how different each student in the class is. And number two is control. So people want control over themselves and to determine what they pursue. So your goals are in your control. That's intrinsic in motivation. So nobody else can choose that for you. Maybe in your work, but in your personal life, when you pursue hobbies or things that you love, passions and things, that's in your control. And number three is cooperation and competition. So, intrinsic motivation can really be increased when people gain satisfaction from helping each other. So, cooperation. And that is also why I started this podcast and why I started teaching is to share what I know and when I learn something new to share that because I really find happiness in that. And that's also why I'm open and I constantly say in the podcast as well, like if you guys have anything to help me, if you want to correct me, if you want to share anything, please do because I really love learning just as much as sharing what I have learned with others. Because for me, really sharing is caring. And Also be open to learning. Like I said, it's not you. Nobody's always right with anything, and in that sense, also community is so important. Flamenco community is so wonderful, and you know, that's also what's so lovely about going to class and learning in groups because you learn from each other and it's healthy competition. So I'm not saying compare, but push each other, you know? And then number four is curiosity. So something in your environment has grabbed your attention or it stimulated you to want to learn more. So, what grabbed your attention about flamenco? What was it that made you more curious and wanting to learn more about the art form? Um, how does it all fit together? How do these singers get to hit those notes? How does the guitarist manage to play such difficult uh, chords and strum with their fingers so strongly? How do the cuadro that do the palmas? How do they stay in time when it goes so fast? And how do they know when it's loud, when it's soft? How to do con? That's curiousness, curiosity. So but just think about what made you curious about starting to learn flamenco and tap into that to motivate you. And then the fifth is recognition. So I might sound contradicting, but people enjoy being complimented. So it's a natural thing for people. You like receiving compliments. So just be wary of relying on this too much, like I said before. So not using that as your only motivation to move forward. So, trying to constantly keep up with others or to be better than everyone is really exhausting and it's the wrong way to spend your energy. So I didn't think that I'm going to talk so much that this is going to be 2 episodes, but I think this is going to be 2 episodes. So I will continue this in the next one. Thank you for listening so far, my fellow flamenco enthusiasts. Since I've actually already prepared a full episode, which is now going to be 2 episodes, it hopefully won't be too long before I issue the second part. I hope that you took something from this so far. I've definitely learned a lot or just had some things just resurface again and just reinforce again things that I've kind of put in the back of my mind already. And enjoy this, what is soon to be silly season. And I'll chat to you in the next episode. Ole!